Hello, welcome back to All for United WFC. And look about that, eh? We're back to top of the league, albeit, slight Chelsea with the game in hand, but we are back there officially. So much to talk about from yesterday. Obviously, the red card has obviously dominated the mainstream news. We'll get to that a little bit later on in the show. We'll talk about that and give our thoughts on that. Obviously, we've got the goals to talk about, an own goal as well, which we scored. So let's see what everyone's saying. Get all your thoughts in over the next kind of 45 minutes to an hour. We'll go through the game as we usually do on a Monday. You all know, everyone who's in the comments, I can see at the moment, you come here week in, week out. So thanks for coming back again for another match reaction. Right, I'll do what I usually do then. I'll just get your initial thoughts on the game, and then we'll kind of dissect as we go along through the next hour or so. So Barry, starting with yourself, what did you think on yesterday?
Very happy. 3 points, needed it. After a game where we only took a point and really needed to do better. We battled it out, fought hard, maintained the game well, controlled possession. Probably could have done better with chance creation. But aside from that, brilliant 3 points and an excellently managed game.
No, yeah, it's hard to disagree with that. John Fry, I can see your comment saying you're fuming about the game. I'm hoping that's more to do with the red card. Well, put your thoughts in as to why, and we'll come back to that in just a second. But because TJ's agreeing with you, I am as well. You're not the only. Oh, not TJ. It's because you've got the same background. Peter's agreeing with you there, so I'm intrigued to know why. But there we are. Jess, for yourself, what do you think on yesterday's game? Barry made the important point. It was just about the 3 points, really. After the draw against Everton, for me, it was just important that we got that. What did you think on it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the 3 points were, they're always kind of the most important thing. I think when you look at Spurs, they've been the sort of underperformers so far this season, but I do not think they are a bad team. They've done some good work in January with some new transfers. Obviously, getting Beth England was a big move for them. So overall, I'm happy to be walking out with 3 points.
Short and sweet, love it. Yeah, I think that's the key, isn't it? We got, as you said, Barry, after the draw against Everton, it was important that we got 3 points. You mentioned chance creation there. We'll start with that then, because I made the point in one of our group chats, and it's one of the things I wrote down at the time. Up until the 60th minute, we had 3 shots, I believe, 1 on target. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that is pretty accurate.
At half time, we'd had 2 shots and 1 on target, so I can't imagine you're too far away.
But Barry, for yourself, I didn't feel like we were ever under that much pressure. I never felt like we were out of control of the game, but the chance creation was less. But weirdly, I felt more confident in this that we'd scored than when we had loads of chances. I mean, what did you think from that point of view going forward?
Well, I thought, in the first 15 minutes of the game, we had about 75% of the possession, and they were on to 25%, obviously. So, that was ridiculous in itself. By half-time, it was 32-68. By full-time, very similar. I think it was 35-65, something like that. So we dominated the possession. We dominated the game. I don't really remember too many things that Spurs did, with the exception of the Beth England shot, that really worried us and troubled us. So I don't think they had too much to offer Spurs in that respect. I do feel that we didn't do as much as we could have done. I think that's down to not a brilliant attack in this game, I have to say. I feel they could have done better. Crosses weren't as good as they could have been in many of the situations. I don't think the movement was as good. I'm sure we're going to get onto it, but I didn't think Russo was in the box as much as she needs to be as a star striker. But having said all those things, there were some very interesting stats that got put up on Sky Sports before the game started. And I just think it's important to remind ourselves of them because they're actually quite good. For example, this season so far, obviously 6 goals conceded before the game started, 7 by the end of it. We've had 9 clean sheets, and that's the best in the entire league. We're the second best in terms of amount of wins, in terms of amount of goals, 31 of them. And in our 70 games in the WSL that we've played, we've won 43 of them. We've got 141 points. That's not bad out of a potential 210. Conceded just a 60, so not even won a game. We had 34 clean sheets, and Mary Apps is responsible for pretty much all of those, and she's on 51. Best goalkeeper in the world, in my opinion, right now. So I just feel like, although there's probably going to be some negatives that come out of this conversation, we got the 3 points, and let's be brutally honest, we are still busting it, I think, in the WSL, considering our early creation and need for progression still.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting point you raise. I mean, Jess, we'll talk about the attack still, because obviously, like I said, I mentioned there, lack of creation in this game, whereas before the couple of games previous, we sat on here when we were saying we're creating loads, but we're not scoring. This one, we created little, but scored as many goals as we have done. What do you think on that? Because Russo's obviously a key one in this, our focal point in the attack. But a lot of the time, I don't know whether it was just me that noticed it, she was dropping into almost midfield. There was times she was alongside Zella. I'm like, what are you doing back there? And the ball would go out to Paris or to Garcia, whoever it was in the game, or out to Galton, and Russo would be, behind Ella Toone. I'm like, what are you doing there? Exactly that? I've noticed Russo dropping back a lot. What do you think on that one? Do you think it's a tactical thing, or do you just think Russo's maybe, we see it with strikers where they're not getting the ball and they want the ball, so they go and try and find it themselves? Do you think it's a tactical thing, or do you think it's more on her that she just wants to get involved a bit more?
I think this is a tactical thing. So I've mentioned it before, even before we kind of hit this, I'm not going to say like a dip in form because we're still doing really well. But when we were sort of like when we beat Liverpool like 6-0, I said how our front players are so fluid with their movement. So you'll notice on some occasions, like you were saying, Russo dropping in deeper to receive the ball. She then holds the ball up. She's got really good hold-up play. And that is one of her strengths. And they obviously try to play to that. I think if they're going to do that, what they potentially need to do is then have more movement from like Toone or the two wingers to then kind of push forward, and someone's got to take Russo's position, which did happen on a couple of occasions. Galton moved a little bit more central, whilst Russo moved out wide. So it is, I'm sure it is coming from skin at this. And in some of the previous games, that has kind of been, it's been like something really, really good that we've done. This fluidity in the way we've moved the ball forward with the players interchanging is very hard to defend against, because as a player, you have your player on the pitch that you're supposed to be marking. When they're all moving all over the place, it's very, very difficult because you've then got to communicate with the rest of the defenders and make sure that everyone's marking someone. So when it's done right, it's really, really difficult to defend against. I just think that maybe teams are starting to figure out what we're doing a little bit. And with Russo dropping in deep to receive the ball, like I say, it's great because she's got really good hold-up play. But then when we progress forward, she's then sometimes stuck a little bit kind of in midfield because she's almost creating the attacks. And that means that when crosses are coming in, you've not got that focal player there. And I think Russo is very good, obviously, with her head. She's a tall girl. So we kind of probably we're missing that a little bit. So whilst I think the fluidity is great, I think we maybe need to start picking and choosing our moments, because I think we are missing a kind of a target player in the box, basically. I did think in the first half, I couldn't really work out whether it was our crossing that was poor or if there was just no one kind of gambling on the ball. There just didn't really seem to be enough numbers in the box. And again, that might be because Russo's been dropping in sort of too deep to almost sit in that kind of like central midfield role. So I think it's one of them. You've got to find a balance between playing to her strengths, which can be kind of pressing aggressively and almost defending from the front and dropping in a little bit, but also being that focal point, because that's where we're going to get a lot of our goals from.
But I feel like that's a problem, and it's very rare that I sit there and come up with the problems, but that's a problem. When your striker, the star person, who we know is good in the air, we've seen it from every free kick and corner, she's always there or thereabouts. The quality of crosses that we were putting in, particularly in that first half, it was abominable, Connor. I'm sat there watching it. It's one of the big notes that I've written down. The crossing was crap, I'm afraid.
The crossing was poor. That was probably the biggest thing I took away from the first half. I thought the crossing was really bad.
It was. And the best crosser of the ball was, check notes, Connor Roberts. Nikita Paris, on around about the half-hour mark. Best cross that comes in. And there's only one person in the box, and that was Leah Galton trying to get there. And she's nearly got there. I couldn't even see Russo in the picture now. I've got the picture in mind. Can't see her there. That's where she needs to be. That's the purpose of her position. The position she's dropping down to, you'd argue, is the Toone position. So is it a case of the fact that, as we've alluded to, I've seen it in the comments already, Toone wasn't at her best yesterday. And if she wasn't at her best, is Russo having to track back to basically help her mate out to start these things off better? I mean, Toone did have a really good ball over the top for Galton, which I thought was a really good opportunity. But that's really the best thing that I can think of that Toone did, aside from hitting the inside of the post in the second half. So I just feel like that's a worry for me if we're going to be in a situation where we don't have people in the box. It takes me back to Mourinho times for United. We can't have that. You've got to have your focal point being in and around the area. And she was fantastic with her head. I don't see that many headed goals from Lights of Galton, Paris, Garcia, any of these other players. So if we're going to put crosses into the box, you need to have your best player there to do that, and that's Ella Russo. If we're not going to have Russo in the box, then we're going to have to change how we play and start taking a few more pot shots from the area, because you can't keep putting crosses in the off chance that it's just going to bounce down, or somebody else is going to get there. It doesn't make sense to me.
It doesn't, in the case of, like you said, we are a team heavily reliant on crosses. We do. We put a lot of crosses, particularly on Honor's side. Now, she didn't yesterday purely because of what Sarah said. Ash Neville, and we're debating putting her on the player of the match poll here because we thought that Ash Neville was very good. I'll put that in the chat in a second. We're still undecided as to a fourth person, I've got to be honest. So it might just be 3 on this one. But yeah, as soon as Honor is stifled on that side, but even the crosses that were going in, you mentioned Paris put a good ball in. I'm pretty sure Leah put a good one in at some point as well. Our best header of the ball is not in the middle to get on the end of it. And I think it's not a massive problem if you're not so heavily reliant on crosses, but we are. We score a lot of goals from the fullbacks going past the wingers and putting balls into the box, either on the floor or in the air. So it's a little bit, I don't know. I'm old-fashioned, Barry's, I don't know. But I don't know why I just said just you. But whether I like old-fashioned strikers that just stay forward. Look at, if you watch a little bit of Man City, watch how Bunny Shaw plays for Man City. Her sole job is just to get goals. She's obviously leading the WSL scorers chart at the moment for that reason, because that's what she's there for. And I feel like if you've got a player who's got linked world record transfer fees as this top number 9, she's got to stay there. And I don't know. Maybe it's because she's trying to get more involved. She's not getting the ball as much, but.
And she can do that job that we want her to do, which is sit in that number 9 position. She can do it. It's just I am only assuming here that I'm just assuming that's the sort of game plan and the tactics that Skinner's given out, which is basically Russo come deep, because I don't know why else we can, the last few weeks, should be doing it. Because like you say, then she's not in the box where you hope or where you think she should be. But she is capable of doing that job. So I would like to sort of moving forward see her staying in that box more to get on the end of these crosses.
I mean, that's a cracking comment as well. The own goal was fantastic, by the way. As a finish, that's a brilliant finish. Own goals always seem to be quite good finishes, don't they? And that was top joy. One of our strikers has scored.
You're being a little bit harsh in there, because you can clearly see she's trying to wrap her foot around the ball. It doesn't quite happen. Bubbles up over it and just put the power in there. It looked aesthetically pleasing, but it wasn't where she was trying to put the ball. Let's not completely knock the ball. She's done her best to try and clear it. But yes, it did look fantastic. I'll give you that.
Indeed. Ian's disappointed by their pies. I hope you enjoyed the game anyway.
The food at Spurs is amazing. So I don't know what you've chosen there.
Yeah, go on, Ian. What kind of pie did you have there? Because I've heard the food's very good at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium as well, so I don't quite know what you were what you went for there.
I've had rumours they had a whole pig in a sausage roll, so that was quite a thing.
This has been mentioned a few times. Alex in the comments, saying we need to start going down the centre and spreading the defence a little more, but depending far too much on the wing. I think Ian made this point a bit earlier on that even. I can't find the comment now. It's a lot further up. That we're, again, heavily reliant on the wing. So when they target that, Ash Neville did a great job on Honor. Blundell on the other side had a bit more room. But
I don't think Honor wasn't getting forward because Ash Neville was blocking her too much. I think Honor wasn't going forward as much because Ash Neville was doing so well going forward. She was really quite something on that left-hand side. And I think Honor had to sort of hang back just to sort of help keep Ash Neville at bay for a bit. So I think she just had to kind of decide when she went forward, which is kind of like what Anton said here. I mean, yes, we know Honor's got a fantastic cross on the ball. That's never in doubt. But Honor's a right back. There's only so many times you can expect us to be going forward. At the end of the day, you've got a right winger and a left wing. You're expecting those people to put the crosses in. And I thought, aside from Honor, our best cross through the ball was Nikita Paris. But I can count probably about 3 that she put in that were any good.
No, yeah, I fully agree with that. There's your answer, by the way. Ian's put their beef.
Ian, me and you might be disagreeing for the first time. I find their pies to be amazing.
Yeah, I've got nothing to add on that because I've never had them, so I can't comment on that one. But yeah, no, 100%. I'm sure we might get onto that in a little bit anyway. Let's talk about the first goal then. Came from, funny enough, an on a cross, wasn't it? They got put into the box. Obviously, Galton.
Are you not going to do the player of the match thing?
Well, no. I've put it in the chat and I've chose 3. And judging. Yeah, there we go. The player of the match poll's in the chat. Make sure you vote on that. We've gone for 3 players this week, so we struggled with a 4th, and we knew who everyone's going to vote for anyway. And looking at the early signs of it, everyone's voting for the same player anyway. So, yeah, I think that's why we've gone for only 3 on this one. What's that? Does he? I saw that very briefly. What does that come? Does he? I'm just going to trigger everyone and say yes because yes. Like, why would you eat it with your hand? Like, that's even worse. Like, because all the crusts and everything. No. No, that's worse than eating a burger.
That was a knife and fork at the football corner, lad. Either your hands or a fork at worst.
No. You've got to come prepared. The little plastic ones or something. Anything. Moving on. Yeah, so let's talk about the first goal. Like I said, it was an on a cross. Galton, obviously, with the finish. Jess, for yourself, Galton obviously got player of the match by a lot of fans, and she's in our poll as well. What do you think her kind of importance on this side? Because obviously we seem to miss her quite. Obviously, we didn't score as many when she was out. Obviously, we scored 2 yesterday, one being the own goal. But her finish as well. Just how do you feel of her overall performance yesterday and the goal, obviously, itself?
I just think she's probably one of our most consistent players. She's always just performed at a really high level, and I think not only does she offer a lot going forward, I think quite defensively she works quite well alongside Blundell. I think they've got a good sort of relationship on the pitch. They kind of know where each other are, and I think along with the sort of central midfield players, I think she offers a lot of kind of like fast passing, quick ball play to kind of generate chances as well as sort of scoring. And yeah, I mean, she's got to be one of our sort of top scorers. I think she's just a really consistent player, to be honest. And I think she offers a lot to the team. And I think we're a better team with her in it. So for me, she sort of week in, week out, definitely one of our starting 11 players. I think we definitely missed her when she was out. So to see her back, and I think did she play the full game, get a full 90? She played really well.
I think she might have come off towards the end, like right at the end. I think it was in the added time. I think she came off.
Right at the end.
Thomas, I think, came on the 90. It was in added time anyway.
Yeah, I think just as I was finishing watching the game before, I think they were just making the sub as I had to start watching to come on here.
Dom makes an important point there. The first goal was a result of having some bodies in the box. I mean, Barry, do you agree with that? It was the first time really that we saw, a group of United players actually attacking the Spurs box.
I wouldn't call it a group. I saw about 2, and they were Nikita Paris.
More than one.
It was definitely more than one. Yeah, we didn't crowd the box. This is just it. I feel like maybe we were worried about the counter attack, and we didn't want to commit too many forward. I can understand that. I mean, are we talking about the goal? Are you wanting to go into that?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I mean, it was defensively poor. I feel like if you're there and you're on Leah Galton, you really should be expecting being goal side. So we've got something on that. She was just completely turned the wrong way. And in that respect, I feel Galton was superb. Basically turned the defender inside out. And, I mean, there was no doubt in that goal whatsoever. She's absolutely put her foot through it with some venom. There's rumours there's a hole in the goal now from where that ball stretched it out so much. But yeah, again, it was a really good cross that came in from Honor, one of those rare forays forward that she managed to have. Superb crossing, and it landed, again, accurate, and that was the thing. It was the accuracy of the crosses. They were either too long or too short before not beating the first man. I think those that were swung in weren't that great, but that one was very good. It was just beyond Nikita Paris, who was also there. But yeah, there was not a huge amount of people in the goal, in the area for the goal.
Well, we had four. It was Paris and Russo went for the header. Toone is just inside on the edge, and Golden, obviously, who scored. So,
Russo was there. He was fairly anonymous for the rest of it. So maybe I just didn't imagine that. But no, listen, like we said, there was a few, but Galton was the one that mattered.
No, exactly. I've just literally just watched it back. So yeah, Paris and Russo go for the same header. Russo obviously jumps, pushes the defender out of the way, which then obviously leaves Galton to wrestle off the player that's on her. There's a comment having a conversation with Charlie. I think that's in response to Charlie on the panel, unfortunately, tonight. I must have missed Charlie's comment earlier on, but there we are.
Yeah, she's arrived.
She has. Oh, I can see it now. There we go. Evening, Charlie. Yeah, John said it was a magnificent finish from Galton. She was, I think I've written down, kind of, and I put it on the tweet, her importance to the team. And I think Jess, you hit the nail on the head. She probably is, alongside Honor, one of the most consistent players. We have players that maybe play better on an odd game, but consistently game in, game out. You're looking at Leah and Honor in particular. They're always 7 or 8 out of 10 most games. And I think that goes a long way when you're trying to build a squad of players, because then, I can rely on that player. You know what you're going to get. There's plenty of players throughout the years that you look to that are going to get that level of performance out of. There's a few comments about Beth England's goal. I'm sure we're going to get onto that in a. Should we move on to that now, just to get it out of the way?
Well, just before we do, I mean, you're finishing off with what Galton was saying. I think she was by far going forward our most threatening player. But can we also just take a moment to point out the fact that she had a brilliant effort in the first half. As I say, Toone puts the ball over the top. I don't know how she got there before her defender, but she did. Defender obviously made it a little bit more difficult for us. It was a bit like the England chance down the other end, but Galton didn't have as much time on the ball, I don't think, and just put it over the bar. But dare I be the one to say it, she weren't offside for that goal. For me, it was when you pause it, it's tight. And I feel like you get VAR on that. I don't think that's going to be given as offside. It was like her arm was off, but you can't with your arm, so that doesn't count. Then it comes down to how big her forehead is. And bearing in mind how that line's supposed to go, I think that was a perfectly good goal. Not enough made of it though. Because there's no VAR, people don't bother arguing because they don't want these people to get into trouble. But for me, perfectly good goal.
Well, I'm sure we're definitely going to get onto VAR, I'm sure, when we talk about the red card very shortly. We'll get onto that after the Beth England. We'll briefly talk about the Beth England goal then, because obviously, to be fair, I said to Barry before, every single goal that you concede or score, you can argue, is a mistake from someone on the pitch, because otherwise the ball just won't go in. I've always said that. But to be fair, sometimes I think you just got to give credit where it's due. I mean, just for yourself, there's a lot of people just saying it was a good finish. Is there any? Obviously, there's always something United could have done to stop it, because otherwise it would never go in. But where did you look at and think United could have done a little bit better there? Obviously, it's a free kick. Iwabuchi takes it quick, and England kind of runs through the whole half, and it's a great finish into the far corner. But is there anything United could have done there more?
I mean, I think Letizia probably could have done a little bit better. I thought she got kind of, obviously, Beth England cut in, and I thought Letizia had kind of sold herself and got sort of shown her out, and basically was sort of caught a little bit wrong-footed, and it was therefore a little bit too slow to come inside. But we kind of mentioned it before the show, at the end of the day, a goal like that, there's nothing Mary Earps can do, I don't think. Once the ball leaves the boot of Beth England, it is going in. And the thing is, you've got to just realise that Beth England is a very, very good striker. She's one of the all-time WSL top scorers, and she has, all those goals for a good reason, because she's very, very good. So like I say, maybe Letizia could have done a little bit better, but yeah, credit where credit's due. That was a very, very good strike, pretty much inch perfect in the goal.
Yeah, I mean, Barry, John's mentioned an interesting point that, talking about the dark arts of football, and then we're going to get onto that when we talk about Toone, but John's saying there that, stand in front of the free kick taker, they can't take it quick then.
It was too quick. It was too quick. Listen,
I think it was quick. They were close to the ball at that point. I sort of looked back and thought, was there anything they could have done to to cut inside, and the United players were too far away. But that's just because of where the sort of positioning was. It's not really anything they could have done to improve on that. It's just how the ball fell.
If somebody had stood in front of it, then the ball would have been kicked against them, and that would have been a yellow card. So that would have happened. I think there's two things that need to happen. Absolutely, the goal itself, it is a thing of beauty. Brilliant idea to take the free kick quickly. It was a free kick. I wouldn't argue with that. Well taken down the left. Beth England did really well. May Letizia, I thought, did excellent to catch up because Beth was well ahead and Maya's pace got her back there. The problem is that when she came back, she was trying to see her outside, but she wasn't showing her outside. She was saying, look, go that way. She was basically begging her, saying, please go left. And the minute she turned right, May Letizia went, oh, fiddlesticks. And in came Beth. And at that point, she was twisted. She couldn't turn around. And that just gave her the yard she needed. And it's an absolutely splendid finish. You can't argue with that. Mary Earps had absolutely no chance. But nobody's mentioned it yet. This all came about after Leslie Russo has fouled, I think, in the penalty box. There was a moment there. There was no replay shown on Sky. If you look at the highlights now, not that I feel like there's an agenda here against Sky, but I'm a little bit annoyed because that weren't there. Don't know what that alarm's about. I'll deal with that in a bit. I think MI5 are on their way. Going to explode in a minute. It's like an episode of 24. I'll deal with that in a second. Anywho, I think they come straight through Leslie Russo. That's a penalty. It's not given. Ball comes out to the left, and that's when Iwabuchi gets fouled and it's sorted. So you talk about that whilst I try and work out what's that.
I can't believe you carried on with an alarm going in the background. That could be anything. We could see someone on fire in a minute, and Barry's just like, "Yeah, I want to talk about the thing and go."
He's got some very important things to say. I can't blame him, to be fair. But no, what he's saying about the foul on Russo, to me, it did look like a foul. I think again, it goes back to one of those kind of times where if that happens anywhere else on the pitch, that is given as a foul. What have you been timing? Why?
Didn't even know how to time on the stopwatch. That must have been going off for days when I've not been here. Madness.
There we are.
Yeah. Did you think it was a Russo pen?
I think that anywhere else on the pitch, that is given as a free kick because it's straight in the back of Russo. So potentially, yeah. And to be honest, I watched it just like I say, I watched the game just now, and I've not actually seen that foul again. So I would want to watch it again to see.
And actually, after it happened, that's what some of the players are doing. They're like, that's a penalty. What's going on? Yeah. And they're not paying attention to what's happening over the other side, which is.
And I think that might be where we do get caught out a little bit, and that could be why, obviously, the foul happens, and then the United players are a little bit too far off the ball. But I'd have to. I'm going to watch it back again now, actually.
For me, it's not purely because of my reasoning for why Toone isn't a red card, because I don't want to see soft decisions given. I think Russo goes down a little bit.
She's coming through the side of her, Connor. She's tickled her under the armpit and went coochie coo.
I know I'm going to be outvoted. I mean, well, no, John's agreeing with me. Who's agreeing with you. So we're split at the moment by what the comments
say. He's a sensible human being, and John Fry's lost the plot.
But no, not for me. I think if that's given against us, I'm, fuming as well. I don't know.
I'm sorry.
Like to get more contact.
I don't agree with this. This is a fallacy in football. A foul is a foul wherever it happens on the football pitch. You can't go, if that happens in your own half, it's a free kick. If it happens anywhere else, it's not. A foul is a foul is a foul. You can't go, oh, that's in the box. We're not going to give that. So that's just absolute poppycock. Dash and poppycock. There it is.
I agree with what you're saying, but John is right. Most of the time, things are given as free kicks. That if it happens in a penalty box, it's not given as a penalty because there's more obviously jeopardy, I guess, involved if you're given a penalty than a free kick, depending on where it is and who's taking it. To be fair, TJ, I'd have to rewatch. He's going on VAR duty for us. I mean, we could all agree on that, which we're going to get onto that now. But yeah, I thought Russo was getting a shot off, but I'm unsure where it was about.
I thought she should have had an earlier shot, but there.
Yeah. Right, let's get onto the red card then. I've put it first on the title because this is dominated not just United and Spurs fans. This has went around everywhere and mainstream media this morning. Saw it on Sky Sports. They were analysing it. It was on every pundit talking about it. It's been blown way out of proportion, in my opinion. But there we are. Right, I'll get both of you just very quickly one word answer, and then we'll dive into the actual incident itself. Barry, red card, yes or no?
I'll give you a one word answer. Possibly.
Jess?
No.
Right. I'm also on the no side, so we'll see how this discussion goes. Okay, I'll ask you a second question before we dive into the actual specific incident. Should United appeal it?
Yes.
Yes or no?
If we appeal it, do they they reject the appeal, does Ella Toone then get an extra game back?
Well, Ian, who's in the comments, will explain it a lot better than I can, but I don't think so because you only get an extra ban if they deem your appeal as, is it frivolous? Is that the
frivolous.
word?
It needs to be frivolous. If it's frivolous, if they think you're taking the mickey, then they can add an extra game onto it.
So if we appealed, but they rejected the appeal, nothing would actually change?
It would just stay as a 3, I think, unless they think you're taking the mick with what you're saying, basically.
In that case, I'd probably say appeal, just on the off chance, because I don't think that they can say. I think there's enough reason to warrant an appeal, if that makes sense. But having said that, I don't think that. I think if we did appeal, I think they'd still maintain their decision and keep it as a red card. Basically, no, so I don't. I think we should appeal, but I don't think we'd win an appeal.
No, I agree with that, and also I said this before we went live, Charlie. They haven't overturned red cards when it's been given to the wrong player, so I don't think they're going to be retracting this. If it's maybe an iffy decision. On the incident itself, there's a lot of people. Pretty much everyone in the comments is saying it's not a red. I'm trying to. Oh no, someone has said it's a red. Should she slander into the foot? Well, let's talk about that then, because obviously it's a little bit of a scuffle. The Spurs player tangles legs and pulls Toone to the ground, so to speak. But then obviously Ella Toone, we've all seen the incident. She does obviously push the Spurs player down to the ground. And obviously the bit afterwards from the Spurs player is why I think a lot of United fans are annoyed. She rolls around holding her face, which you can see on every angle. She doesn't go anywhere near her face. It's on the shoulder, push her into the ground. There's definitely a violent reaction there. But do you think the red card was given based off the Spurs player's reaction rather than the actual motion of what Ella Toone did herself? Jess, I'll start with you on that one.
Yeah, 100%. If that player doesn't, I can't even begin to pronounce her surname, Sommerman, something like that. Quite honestly, she deserves me to butcher her surname after what she did. But yeah, if she does not go down holding her face, that is not given as a red card, and Toone probably gets a yellow. She gets a red card because the ref thinks that it's basically she's been punched, essentially. So, yeah, 100% that the Spurs player is not really showing herself in the best light here. In fact, I think my words to you, Connor, was I called her a wet wipe because I did think that it was quite embarrassing.
I mean, Barry Fuse, Skinner called it play acting. He's been under quite some criticism for saying that because, you're basically he's basically accusing the player of cheating because that is what he's doing. But we've all seen the footage. She didn't hit her in the face. So where do you kind of stand on what actually happened?
I mean, first of all, I've never, correct me if I'm wrong, I've never had anyone get a retrospective yellow. I'm not convinced that occurs. So as nice as it would be to think that would happen, I can't see that occurring. Listen, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the emotion out of it because what we all are is Man United fans. And the minute we do that, it's in our nature to want to sit there and back up our players and do all of that. So if you take it from the start, Toone fouls her. That's the first thing that happens. She comes in through the back and you can actually see, and I watched very carefully, I rewound it many times. So Amy, I'm going to call her Rayner because I can't remember her second name. I know she's got married since then, so I apologise. But Amy Rayner, first female official in the men's game, fair play to her, sees the foul, blows the whistle. At the point she blows the whistle, blows the whistle, she is looking directly at what's going on. Now, whilst the player goes down, she's wrapped her leg around Toone and she sort of turns and has a little kick back, which has obviously annoyed Toone. And it's at that point the ref starts to look. And the problem that you've got is that then Toone does react. Now, you've only got to go back to David Beckham, Diego Simeone. You know, it was the lightest of flick outs. It was a flick out, and it was given. Amy did not see Ella Toone getting kicked at. She did see Ella Toone react. Now, the problem that you've got when you start looking at these sorts of things is that, yes, it's a reaction, and it is a violent reaction. You can't do that. And that's the one thing on which the appeal might fall down on, because you said it yourself, it was a violent reaction. So 100% was that. She can't do that. The player has absolutely not helped her, because the minute she grabs her face, let's be clear, she pushes her shoulder. She gives her a little push on the shoulder. Don't get me wrong, if you pause it, the look on Toone's face is not good. She looks like she wanted to smack her one in the face, but she didn't. And that's the point. She didn't touch her face. She didn't touch her at all in that respect. Never anywhere near the face. Unless she's got caught by a stray nail or something on the way to the shoulder, there's nothing for her to be rolling around holding her face for. Now, before I saw it and I heard from people what was going on, I'm thinking it's like some sort of Rivaldo thing, like where the ball gets thrown at him and he's just falling down, holding his face. It's not quite as bad as that. It's not good. Here's why I said, that's why I said possibly a red, because it is a violent reaction. However, when it comes to consistency from refereeing, that's what we don't have. And again, like I say, I watched this match. The level of research and effort I put in for you guys, I hope it gets sorted. Between the 60th and 70th minute, so not that long before the... Bloody stopwatch, that's the... Sorry, everyone. That's right. So I
wonder if Barry would have got a red card for that.
Yeah, it was a violent reaction. But between the 60th and the 70th minute, Drew Spence, there's a moment, I can't remember who it was on. Oh, Hayley Ladd, that's who it was. So Hayley Ladd is tussling for a ball. Absolutely. Hayley Ladd is tussling for a ball. I think she gets fouled. And then Drew Spence jumps over a player and pushes her in the back. Where's the difference? Now, she gets a yellow card for that. At first, I'm thinking, what's gone on? No action at all. It's a raised hand and it's a push. Yellow card given. So my argument to this is this. If you've been given a yellow card for a push to the back on someone, how can you then give a red card just because you happen to be lying on the floor and there's a push, which is a reaction to something that's just happened? And for that reason, I'm not impressed. So the reason why I say possibly it is a violent reaction, but under no circumstances is that a straight red card. So that's why I said yes to the appeal, because if that's a red card, that's where we need to stop the game. You know, people talk about soft things and fouls being fouls. It's a foul. It's a free kick, yellow card at worst. Even if they haven't seen what the player did to Toone, just a yellow card. There's no way that's a straight red. I can't see what they... And again, the hold in the face. And it's not that she's cheating necessarily, because like I say, you can't see what happens to the finger. She very well might have got caught on the face. She might have. But it's like a glancing touch. It's nothing to the level that she's put on. And actually, when you put this on and you look at what Leah Williamson did and nothing,
exactly, yeah,
that's where it becomes an absolute disgrace. Yehuda's put on there somewhere about, you know, it shouldn't be a 3-game ban in a short season. I disagree. A red card's a red card. If you've got a straight red, you deserve to be punished for it. But not here. That wasn't a good look.
I agree with what Alex is saying. McCabe does that every single game. And she does. But like I said, and I agree with exactly what Skinner said afterwards, that we don't want to have that conversation with Toone to calm her down, because he wants to see that from our players. So do I. I want to see a fight from our players and start. I don't want to see us, turn into a dirty team and start fighting everybody, but show a bit of passion in the game. It's up. The game's on a knife edge. It's 2-1 in an important game that we need to win. I'm glad that Toone was riled up and up for it like that, because otherwise you turn into a nice team. We'll start giving people goals for fun because everyone sees us as a walkover. I'm glad we've got players with a bit of fight. And I used it earlier, the dark arts. Like I said, when you're talking about blocking the free kick, I know at that instance we couldn't because the players were a little bit too far away. But like I said, I'm not. From my personal opinion, I can see why she's giving it as a red. But I do think and I agree with what a lot of people say on Twitter about it, if VAR's in that game, I think that probably gets overturned and it's probably downgraded to a yellow. Because I think when other people then look at it, they go, actually, she hasn't actually hit her in the face and so on, and you can start looking at it that way. But, I mean, you're saying there it's clear based on what Mark's react. he said it. He did say it in his interview with Sky, but by the sounds of it, I don't know. I don't think, like I said, judging off what the FA have done in the past and what's happened in the past with previous red cards, appeals don't usually work. So United, for my opinion, should do it because I don't think we've got anything to lose. I don't think the FA are going to go, oh, you're being ridiculous. But at the same time, yeah.
I think any decent lawyer would be able to show that. I mean, how you can say that an elbow from Leah Williamson is worthy of zero action, but a little push on a shoulder. I mean, it's like the red card with Casemiro. That should have been appealed as well. There's very clearly an angle that wasn't shown on VAR that shows he's got hold of the shirt. Should he have had hold of the shirt? No. Is it a yellow card? Probably. Is there other players in that should have been booked or sent off? Absolutely. And this is where the referees are losing the plot. They're just not doing the right things. And, it's another argument for VAR in the game because I don't think that's a red card if she looks at it on VAR. I think she'd look at that. The way she's gone down, holding her face, again, Toone's back's to her as she does the push. She's looking at that and thinking, oh, she's hit her in the face. That's silly. And what's she meant to do? She's watching it live. She doesn't get the benefit of replays and anything like that. I think it's ridiculous. It genuinely is. And it's just another example of the officiating in the women's game being absolutely atrocious.
I think it is worth bearing in mind as well that the WSL, I'm pretty sure it still does not have professional referees. I'm pretty sure the only
she is. She is. She's been in with the men's officials, isn't she? She should know better. But what I am saying to her is that if you're looking at someone's back and you see hands go forward and the player goes down holding the face, and you've only got one look at it, you're going to go with that. So amazingly, although I think the officiating has been crap, I can't actually blame her for doing that because you can only go by the evidence that's in front of your eyes. We get 70 odd looks at it.
I mean, this is why I was saying that if that Spurs player goes down and doesn't hold a face and just gets up and doesn't act like, I'm not even going to say it, that's not giving us a red. If she just gets up and doesn't make an absolute embarrassment of herself, then that's just a yellow.
I also think as well, because I said the lines person, I can't remember who it was on that side, has got a better view than the ref because they're facing them. But I also think as well, and I agree, John Commode said this on the men's channel a few weeks ago after the Casemiro red card, that referees sometimes make decisions on the balance of the game. And I fully agree with it. I think if that's LSV and that the game is in a different scoreline, that's not giving us a red either. I think the fact it's 2-1, it's in the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, lots of fans turned up, to see Tottenham or to see whatever happened. That red card at that time obviously affected the swing of the game because Tottenham then went on and obviously the crowd were up for it then. They had a few chances after that. It did affect the swing of the game.
Drama, isn't it? And I think I said this on the men's channel that it's like football is basically a product now. You're trying to sell a product. You're trying to sell something. Whilst it is obviously people playing a game, there's also an entertainment factor. You want to go and be entertained. And sometimes football can just be boring. You see boring games. So I think it does reach a point where refs, officials, whoever start kind of trying to spice things up almost. Because, you're right, that last sort of 10 minutes really could have kind of gone either way. United defended really well, but that could have easily swung back in Tottenham's favour.
Could have. Just going to say as well to this one, it's a fair point, but, I mean, Ella Toone's hardly... Georgia Stanway or Katie McCabe. She's hardly got a reaction for being, a reputation for being a particularly awful one. She was one of the poster girls and one of the darlings of the team afterwards. So I don't necessarily think that affects the decision. I just think they've got it wrong because, like I say, they've gone with what they've seen, but what they've seen doesn't tell the whole picture. You're not going to get VAR in the women's game anytime soon because, they can't even afford to have proper goal line technology and decent referees. The opportunity to get VAR, let's be honest, even if you do get VAR, I mean, I know we're not exactly Arsenal fans, but they got absolutely done over by it at the weekend as well. So, the officiating in general needs sorting out because genuinely, I know we're not on the men's channel, but if I was Arsenal and they lose the title by 2 points, they're going to go absolutely mental, and rightly so, because that's ridiculous. You don't just try and go, oh, sorry, we made a mistake. I know that's cost you 2 points. Unlucky, lads. It's not cool, and they've got to sort it out because that's the whole point of having technology. If you're not going to do it, then just get rid of the technology. It's pathetic.
No, I agree. Like I said, this point has been debated and debated. It'll be interesting to see what United do. There's a comment, talking about Toone's reaction. She said, I think she had to put that out. I don't read into what players put on social media because a lot of it is done by their teams nowadays. I think she was probably advised to put something like that out, and there'll be discussions behind the scenes as to what they do. She'll have a say in it. She might say to them, look, don't appeal or appeal, whatever. She might, but it's down to the club, really. So I think she'll have a say for sure, but I don't think it's going to be a big say in the matter.
She shouldn't have reacted. She shouldn't have reacted, but she did.
Yes and no.
I probably do that. No red card. Maybe we got a yellow for the foul, but
it depends on the type of player you are. We know Toone, she's heart on her sleeve kind of player. We've seen her have a go at Martin Ho and Skinner on the touchline multiple occasions. While we're all watching, and she's turning around effing and that's the kind of player she is. And I agree with Skinner. I wouldn't want her to change that because then you lose the kind of player she is. I'm glad we've got players like that in our squad. And yeah, don't think. Oh,
I was just going to show that. Yeah.
I'll bring it up. That comment from Alice, yes, it will do it good in the grand scheme of things.
But we discussed this, and it was also a really good point because, there's been people clamouring to get VBR in the team, and this is a perfect opportunity for her to stake her claim for starting. So we shall see whether or not, VBR can win a place, because if she comes in and does brilliant, let's be honest, if Toone's not going to be available for the Chelsea game, what an opportunity that is. Vilda Reese, a winner, anyone? Be nice.
That's the key. I was going to ask that question, actually. You mentioned Vilda there. As you said, a lot of fans obviously been calling for her to start. Obviously, we did incorrectly tweet it at the time because we were under the impression it's only for yellow cards that it carries out for the same competition. Red cards do carry over into other competitions. So it is Durham, Leicester and Chelsea that she'll miss if no appeal is successful. So yeah, Vilda's got a great chance now. In those 3 games, Leicester are looking on the up. I know they're still bottom of the table, but they look at different sides since the signs they made in January. So that's not going to be as easy as maybe we think it's going to be. So this is Vilda's big chance. Jess, just very briefly on this point, is this Vilda's opportunity? As we said, we've been waiting for, well, not necessarily waiting for this as such, but Vilda herself would have been going, to be fair, she did come on before the red card, so she was on the pitch anyway. So fans can't say, Skinner only brought her on because Toone got a red card. She was already on the pitch. So do you think this is she's probably going to be, almost like going, yes, this is my chance now to prove what I've got?
Yeah, absolutely. In the kind of professional game, you don't get many chances to kind of break into a starting 11, really. There's only 11 spots on that pitch. You've got to prove that you're worthy of one, and it's very difficult to do that without game time. But then you can't get game time without sort of proving it. It's a bit of an endless circle. So you're almost waiting on someone, as bad as it sounds, you are waiting on someone to kind of get injured maybe, or like to need to get a red card so you can prove yourself. So yeah, absolutely. She needs to take this opportunity to kind of show everyone what she's capable of, and then give kind of Skinner a headache when Toone is ready to come back. Give him a headache as to whether she gets straight back in the team or whether, you give VBR a little bit longer. So, yeah, it'll be really interesting to see how this plays out. And I know in the previous shows we've done, we mentioned her quite a bit as to whether she should be someone that we're bringing on off the bench a little bit more. Like you say, she did come on off bench before Toone got carded. So yeah, this really is her chance, and it'll be really interesting to see kind of if she takes it and how she performs.
Interesting, isn't it? We spent a long time clamouring here already just for VAR. We're gonna have to make do with VBR.
Yeah, the comment I've just seen that's just caught my attention though, talking about Lisa coming in. Skinner said she had a schedule. That would tell you everything that you need to know about Vilda's chance at United. If Vilda doesn't come in, now Toone is out. I think that will say everything. But I think Lisa's going to be more for lads, not for Toone. I've got to be honest. So we'll see on that one. Right, we've got about 10-15 minutes left before we wrap up. So make sure you get your votes on the poll. I want to talk about, Charlie mentioned this point when we were discussing the red card about, there it is. Also worth mentioning, down to 10 players and you wouldn't have known great game management. It's something I wanted to bring up because obviously Williams came on Thomas towards the end as well. Barry, for yourself, just how good, Spurs had a few chances towards the end. They were always going to, with a player advantage, the crowd and everything else. They were going to get a few opportunities, but I don't think we were ever really, I never felt, we're really hanging on here. And that's just testament to our game management, no? Or do you think that we were under the caution that we were? You felt like we were going to concede?
I said it at the beginning. Game management was spot on. I mean, I was waiting for this flood of opportunities that Spurs were going to have with us having 10 men. Didn't see it. The only thing that really stands out for me was something that Jess mentioned beforehand, which was a brilliant cross across the box that Mary Earps punches out, so it doesn't get to the far post. Other than that, toothless. I thought Spurs were toothless. England is their main striker, their main outlet really for anything good that goes forward. Ashley Neville very good as well, but I didn't see anything that worried me. You know, I was expecting us to be, like I say, under the cush. Didn't see it.
I mean, Jess, do you echo that? Was there any point that you saw in the last since the red card that you thought, okay, they've got more chances here, or were we pretty comfortable? Do you feel?
No, I was sort of waiting for it. I was waiting to kind of start feeling a little bit stressed. But honestly, I thought we controlled the game still very well. Like Barry mentioned, they did have a couple of I wouldn't even say half chances. I really do want to just mention Mary Earps' punch because I just thought that was incredible. So it was worth them attacking just to see that, in all honesty. But no, I thought as well as how well we kind of did, I thought these subs were really good. I thought Rachel Williams performed very well when she came on, other than I think she got caught offside, which was really like a rookie error. But I thought she did really well. And I think at that time, it's really good to have some fresh legs on to defend from the front like Russo had been doing. And I think with her experience as well, she was a really good sub to come on. I don't really know how Martha Thomas did when she came on because I had stopped watching it at that point because, like I said before, I had to get on here. But yeah, up until that point, I thought that we held our shape really well. And they didn't really seem like they were ever going to kind of capitalise on the fact that they had an extra player, to be honest. I thought that United were pretty comfortable, and I thought our game management at the end there was really, really good and was kind of a testament to the players' mentality as well now on how they can see a game out, especially after losing a player like Toone.
What I will say is that obviously Jess and I were in the very privileged position of watching that last 15 minutes, fully aware of the fact there was no way we were going to concede a goal and equalise. So that does help us. So Charlie's comment there about the away having a heart attack 100% makes sense. And I can imagine if I were watching it live, you would sit there, you would be worried that something might materialise. I think the point we're making analysing the game afterwards is that it didn't. There was nothing there too spectacular. And would you expect anything else from the fourth best defence in Europe?
Yeah, and first in the WSL.
100%, thanks to the fact that Arsenal conceded 8 and we've conceded 7. Thank you very much, Gooners.
So yeah, no, and Peter said now credit for Mark as well to realise and make. Did we make the change almost it was 2-3 minutes later after the Spurs made a change, Amy Turner went off, and Williams for Russo, and obviously that gave us an out ball then to play off. I mean, I get what it definitely is easier if you know the result. Obviously I watched it live, and I think I agree with you. There was definitely a point. I just felt like if Spurs get the one chance, Beth England, you just don't want it to fall. But that they couldn't get Beth England back on the ball. I think that was the problem. If every other Spurs player was in and around the box, I was just like, well, it's probably not going to go in. But we did well of containing Beth England in particular. I think so is the answer to that. Don't quote me on that. I think it is. I think she's definitely had one before. I'm sure she has. I'm trying to think if it's the second or third.
Seems to ring a bell.
There we are. Stats are. You're gonna have to forgive me. I'm prepping for another show in half an hour, so I've got 2 sets of shows in my head. So, but yeah, the added. I know me and Alex messed each other panicking those last 10 minutes or so. But that's obviously the thing of watching it live, there, isn't it? But that's not the comment I wanted to click on. But yes, we do. Yes, that was it. I knew it rang a bell from somewhere. Sorry, I like reading. We had an issue on the men's fan channel yesterday where I brought a comment up without reading it, and it was not the right comment to bring up. Let's just say that. So now I'm trying to read comments before I bring it up. But yeah, saying that the result yesterday was what made us win more crucial. It's interesting to see arguably on the top 3. It has, and not only that, you could argue the whole top four is in this title race now, because yes, Arsenal have dropped away a little bit. Obviously, they've still got a game in hand as well, but you could argue any one of those four can win it now. Whoever misses out on top three this season is going to be massively disappointed, because every single team, we've obviously dropped points. We dropped points to City and to Everton, and obviously lost to Chelsea. Arsenal have dropped points here, and everyone's dropping. But Chelsea first game of the season, Liverpool. It's going to be a fantastic run-in. Sky and BBC are probably loving this with 4 teams in it. Exactly. I said, I've been saying since Christmas. Well, not even before that, I wouldn't count City out, even when they're on their bad run of form, because just never felt like Arsenal have looked anywhere near the team this season.
No, Arsenal were very poor the other day. I obviously went to the Arsenal City game, and Arsenal were not good at all, to be honest. I didn't really rate City that highly. They've got a couple, obviously Chloe Kelly and Lauren Hemp on the wing are insane, but other than that, they didn't really seem to have a lot.
Indeed. I don't know where. I mean, yes, I agree with your point, Yehuda, but Chelsea will have 2 games. I don't know where you're getting 2 from.
Can I just point out, it's irrelevant who's got games in hand. If Manchester United win every single game that's remaining, then they're going to win the league. It's that simple. That's the only maths we need to worry about right now.
Indeed. Before we look to
watch me out on that, he was wrong.
I was going to say, I was trying to think, yeah, but it is, because obviously we've still got Chelsea to play. Before we look to player of the match and look to wrap this one up, so it's a slightly earlier stage purely because I've got to shoot off onto the next one. I did want to mention this, actually, even though it's not actually relevant to our game, but she is still technically a United player. Hansen getting another goal, 3 assists against Brighton. She's absolutely tearing it up for Aston Villa right now. This is just very briefly, just on her performance at Villa, Barry. Do you see her having a career, I guess, back at United when she does come back off loan? Or do you think Aston Villa is probably the best place for her? Because she clearly looks settled there. She's obviously playing great football. She's playing really well down there. What do you kind of think on her? Because as a loan spell, you can argue already it's been successful.
Absolutely. I think it depends. Let's not forget Fuso went out on loan as well. So we've got a few players that have gone out on loan potentially to come back. It all depends. If there's one thing I'd say about Mark Skinner, is that he will play the people who he feels are trustworthy and capable and who have earned their place in his eyes. I think if she comes back and he's had a good, successful season, I don't see any reason why she couldn't. But listen, I've got all the time in the world for Paris and Garcia and these players, but if Kirsty Hansen is better than them on form at the moment, why not bring Kirsty in? She's on a crest of a wave, so it can be a positive. Having said that as well, we're top of the league without Kirsty Hansen. That's an important distinction to make as well. So I'm going to do my world famous answer to Connor, which is whatever decision Mark Skinner makes is one that I will be happy to back.
Yeah, I mean, Jess, where do you stand on this? Like I said, successful loan spell. Clearly, you mentioned Fuso as well. Stay tuned. We've got a show on that very, very soon. So keep an eye on the socials for that with some experts on the German league and particularly about Bayer Leverkusen. So keep an eye out for that one. But where do you kind of look at? Like I said, talking about does she fit into a? I don't want to get into a full-on Hansen show here, but I just thought it was worth mentioning because of her performance. Away at Brighton, another good performance for her.
Yeah, I mean, in general, this whole season she's been sort of consistently performing well from what I've seen. I've not watched a ton of their games, but the highlights and the stats I've seen all seem to indicate that she's playing really, really well. It is just a case of would she come back to United? Would she be able to get into the team? But then I guess that would be one kind of down to her. Does she come back and try and break into the team? Is she playing so well at the minute because she's just fit into the kind of the way Villa play, which could be a huge thing. She might come back to United and not perform like that because she doesn't get on with the kind of system we have. So I would like to see her have another shot at United, both for herself and for the rest of the team. So I guess it would be something to kind of look at over summer. But you want to see her playing football consistently and scoring goals. So if she's going to come back to United and not get in the team, I'd personally rather she kind of move on and play at Villa and do how she's doing now, basically, because she is smashing it.
And can I also just say, I'm really pleased for her. Whether she comes back or whether she doesn't, great player and a great human being. So, pleased to see her doing well while she's there.
No,
Yeah,
100%.
That is so good to see. So, like I say, if she's not going to get game time when she comes back, I'd rather her stay and carry on smashing it.
Yeah, and even in Lanzo, saying confident player growth, I think she'll go in the summer. I'm not saying any more on that. And I like that because ever since, Barry, you've said that on the fans forum a few months ago, where you said every time Lanzo and TJ come into the chat, they're always giving this, it's brother Lanzo, it's brother, and you said that, I can't remember what you said at the time
monks,
now.
Like
That's
monks.
it.
Hello, brother Lanzo. Hello, brother TJ. Peace be with you.
Every time now that I see that. We might be having that debate in the summer if Russo is to depart. So we'll see on that one come the summer. Plenty of shows on that one, that's for sure. Right, I'm going to end the poll in just a second once we've gone around Barry and Jess on their votes. Barry, who would you have gone for and why?
For player of the match?
Yes.
Well, I can confirm that I voted for Leah Galton, so that was never in doubt. She was always my choice. I think she was superb going forward, superb coming back. She scored a vital goal. And I feel that once she came into her own more when we'd scored the goal, actually, I think at that point she really did seem to up her levels, whereas other people might have been forgiven for sort of dropping a little bit because they were tired. She really did just go all over. So I felt that she was the best. I'm going to use this particular moment to point out that whatever the player of the match stuff is has got very little to do with me today. I very much sat on the back seat with that. My 4 choices for the poll. The reason I didn't argue is because I said I'd be amazed if anyone other than Leah Galton wins it, to be honest with you. So, we're sort of arguing. At one point, Connor was going to go, let's ask them who they think should be the 4th. And I'm like, why? You're basically asking which player's going to go on that's not going to get voted for. So, not really much point. But the 3 people that I chose other than that was Nikita Paris. Like I say, I think she did really well in terms of being the only player to get decent crosses in. And I felt sorry for her being substituted. I did go for Honor, but I would have happily swapped Honor for Hannah, which was one of the conversations that we had. I felt both fullbacks were quite good, but Honor did well, I thought, restricting Ash Neville. And the other player I chose was Katie Zellum. So I was really pleased to see some people go, what? No Zellum in the poll, because I thought she was superb. We didn't speak about the second goal too much, but it was her ball to Garcia, the sub, that was immediately from the centre, from the kickoff, that led to the taking the lead again. Sorry, I lost my words momentarily there. I thought I had to stop watching them, but I didn't. It's good. It's shut up ever since I threw it. It's not got very good. But yes, they were my 4. But Leah Galton all day long. That's not even a question, really.
Yeah, I think Zellum was the one that we were, as you said there, Zellum Paris were the other 2 names that we were. To be honest, I should have just stuck Zellum on, but there we are. Jess, for yourself, are we going to be a full house here? And
all the same reasons as Barry. I'm going with Galton. To be honest, the only other person that I would have chosen, or the only other person I considered would have been Ashley Neville, to be honest. But no, I thought Galton had a really good game, offered more than anyone else by far going forward, but kind of never shirked on her defensive duties either. Works really well with Blundell. So yeah, Galton all day for me.
Yeah, and full. I don't need to add any more, but it would have been Galton for myself. Lanzel, you're going to have to rewind this, mate, because we are going to wrap up in a second. Unless we did obviously talk about the red card and the goals and everything like that. You're saying that Beth England's goal scorer, she's on the same amount of goals as Russo this season, which is interesting when you consider the difference in fees that we're talking about. Where's the comment that I was going to go to I can't remember where it was now.
Well, while you're finding that, I would point out where you just mentioned about Russo there. One of the stats that I said to you, Connor, is that over her WSL career with us at Man United, before yesterday's game, she was averaging a goal or an assist every 117 minutes, which basically means that sort of every 3 out of 4 games, she's had a goal contribution. And I think, we're judging her a little bit too much on what she's done lately. I think she's got to get in that box more if she wants to score more. That's her big problem. She's not getting that service and we're not playing to her strengths. But there's no doubt in my mind, I've said it last year before the Euros, Alessia Russo is a better striker than Beth England. but when utilised properly. And she's not being at the minute.
Yeah, and I agree with that. That's definitely a reason. Russo's potential. I mean, not like Beth England's old, by the way. She's not exactly old. And in response to this, yes, so it's the same. I actually took a screenshot of it. Yes, Beth England has played, and this isn't just this season. This is last season as well. But I would caveat by saying Chelsea at the time had a much better squad than this last season. And yes, Beth England had less playing minutes, but she's coming onto a team with Kerr and Wrighton and Harder and Kirby and everyone else that they've got around her. So she's always going to score more goals in that side than a first season Mark Skinner squad where he's still finding out about the players and trying to get his own players in. So I don't read too much into it, but I just thought I'd mention that, considering it was in the comments at the time. In response to this, just very briefly, did you feel for the Spurs? Yes, to a point. Obviously, we don't want to see players crying on the pitch, but I mean, just don't score an own goal. Sorry, but you to clear it. I get it; it's a mistake, but there we are. The comment I briefly wanted to raise was that one. Obviously, Jade has not been announcing this, but obviously, if anyone has been following what's going on over there at the moment, I would, be careful what I say here. We're with the Canadian players, put it that way, after what has come out with everything over there and the shocking news again. Unfortunately, not surprising, which is even more of a shame than what is actually going on. So yes, Adriana, I'm surprised that she's been involved, but at the same time, the fact that the players, by the sounds of it, are being forced to do this just to stop them from speaking out about what's going on is disgraceful in its own right. So I'm not following that too much at the moment. On the pitch wise. Agreed. Anyway,
I can also just say, because Pete's decided to throw this one in here, it's irrelevant. The maths that matters, Pete, is very simple. And I shall do them for you right now. Manchester United have got 9 games remaining, which if we win will put us on to 59 points. Chelsea have got 10 games remaining, which if they win would put them on to 61 points. However, both of those cannot be true due to the fact that we've got to play Chelsea. So working on the theory we win all of our games, we'll end up on the 59 points and Chelsea would end up on 58. And that's really all that matters. It's irrelevant how many games in hand they've got. At the moment, it's in our hands.
Yeah, exactly. That's the most important thing. It is still in our hands, so to speak. And just to end it off, then 29 is still your prime. I would hope so because I'm not there yet. I'm hoping. So I'm hoping that's prime years. I'm not going to start asking people's ages in the comments, but judging by the YouTube analytics, if people have filled out their YouTube age right, a lot of our viewership is between 25 and 35. So just off that basis, yes, I would argue it's in your prime. There we are. Yes,
be honest, you looked a lot older in The Walking Dead.
Oh, here we go. So literally, I shaved the beard off at like 16. With it, I get some people coming up to be asking if I'm in my 30s. So there we are. But it's not a bad thing. And for everything.
Well, if we draw against Chelsea, it's not in our hands. So.
Well, no, exactly. Obviously, we'll be doing the preview to that close to the time. We'll be back on Wednesday. Barry will be back for the fans forum, I believe, on Wednesday night. I'm not entirely sure what the topic is just yet, but everyone knows what a fans forum is by now. So make sure you tune in for that at 7. We'll be back to normal time. Won't be Wednesday, 7:00. I believe. Here you go. You're getting me and Barry's ideas thrown at each other live on air here. It'll be Wednesday. And then Friday, obviously, there's no game this weekend, so no preview. But I say keep an eye out for Friday. We do have a special coming up at 7:00 on Friday there. Look what you've started now.
Me? What?
And that.
No, the guy in The Walking Dead didn't eat burgers with cutlery, but he was a big fan of ice gems.
Oh, here he goes. Look. Doesn't look like an ice gem today. I purposely tried to change it for you, so it doesn't. There we are. Appreciate it, Sarah. Thanks for everyone in the comments. Make sure you check out the men's fan panel show in literally 20 minutes. You'll see a returning face. Benny is back on All for United. It's been nearly a year since he's been on, so make sure you check that out. We're with Tony or Mr. MU Jack on Twitter, who is an absolute gospel of the academy team. If you hear him speak over there, you'll see why. So we're talking obviously about Garnacho, Kobe Mainu as well, and talking about all the academy prospects coming through that that he sees week in, week out. So yeah, check that out in 28 minutes now. No, it's not. It's 18 minutes. Get me time right. Make sure you're liking and subscribing, and we shall see you guys in the next one.